Hello and welcome back to Cabin Fever Crochet. I'm Helene and have for you today my review and little demo on Lion Brand's Mandala watercolor yarn. It says watercolors on the label, however on their website it's singular with just watercolor, but if you type up either, this yarn will pop up. It's a fairly new-ish yarn. I've looked at it several times when I was in our Joann store, and at first touch, I thought they were beautiful first glance, but first touch I was like, ooh, it felt like it could be a little prickly and didn't feel all that soft to me. And then I went back again just recently and I went, oh, this actually feels quite nice. So maybe that was the colorway in particular that I touched, because you know how sometimes that can vary and change the texture of the yarn and can make it a little more hard or stiff or prickly. Anyway, I keep looking at it, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and try it. And I thought, well, might as well just let's check it out together. I'm going to do a demo and work that up a little bit. So let's just go over some of the initial basic stuff, and then we'll get into the yarn itself a little bit. The amount that you get, 3.5 ounces, 100-gram cake, 164 yards, 150 meters. It's machine wash, lay flat, gentle cycle. That's up to you. I like all my handmade garments to hand wash anyway, but it's what it says on the ball band. 75% acrylic, 15 wool, 10 nylon. This is a number 5 bulky, and from first glance looking at it, touching, handling it, I would agree with that. We'll see when it works up. In both needles and hook, it recommends a 6.5 millimeter. In crochet hook, that would be a USK 10.5. And again, looking at that, I think that might be pretty good. As usual, I'm going to try a couple of different hook sizes. This is the colorway Icy Grape 609, and this one is 615 in Quarry. All right, they have 6 different colors, all very lovely and with a nice range from warm tones and neutral to cool, more vibrant, and a little bit of a mix of the two. And the one that I have really been eyeing this whole time, which was sold out presently, is the Pansy, which I think is really pretty, especially going into spring. Would be pretty when there's still just a bite and cool in the air, but you're ready for some more lively, renewing type of colors. Okay, so the other colors they have, there are 6, I said that all together, so that's 3. They have a neutral called Almond, okay, and then there's one with pretty blues, and then there's a very vibrant pink tones called Tea Berry. Okay, a little bit of nylon in here will help soften this and give it a little more stretch and recovery also. This is a single ply roving yarn. It goes from thicker to thin, but not overly so from one extreme to the other. And for that reason, I think this is going to give you still a good stitch definition and consistency in your work overall. And it's a lovely gradient yarn that gives an effect of hand-dyed, hand-painted. And one of the first things I do is I check to see if I can find a center pull in there, and how easy it is to come out, and how much of a blob I'm going to get, whether I work with the center pull or from the outside. Well, that was a fair amount, enough to work with, but not too much where I can't handle it, I'll get caught up. So I'm going to start with a J hook, which is a 6 millimeter. Let's start with a chain, chain, I think that's going to be pretty tight. I'm guessing that the hook that it calls for is going to be a good one, and you could probably go up from there. Alright, so here we have the J. The yarn is very smooth, even on the smaller hook. It's not itchy or prickly going through my fingers. It's easy to work with. The stitches are well defined. Nice stitch definition also. And I'm going to switch over to the K hook, 6.5 millimeter, and let's take a look at that. Make sure I put the right hook back in. Yeah, that's okay. And then now I'm going to turn, I'm going to work an alternate, just a little bit more of a tricky stitch, and that worked up. When I first started to do this row in the larger hook, it hung up a little bit, but then I didn't want to judge it by the first row, because sometimes you know how it takes a couple of rows before your work really starts to flow more easily. Alright, so I'm going to do a cluster over those few rows. Try that again. That's working out pretty well. And how about now? Let's do a puff type stitch. Well, that's flowing really well. Okay, so this is nine stitches going through. Let's see how. Hey, that works up nice. Try one more of those, okay? Not getting hung up. It's easy to see the stitches and to open up. You know, if you've ever done a puff, sometimes the stitches, last few at the end, can get real tight to work in, and that was very easy to raise my hook and elongate that stitch to what I needed. But then they come back together to form the shape quite nicely. I like both hook sizes. I think it's just going to depend on what I'm making. Of course, if I'm doing, say, any type of cluster, puff, otherwise stitches, cables that can become compacted, then I would definitely go up 1 to 2 hook sizes as I normally do. Yeah, that worked up very nice, and it feels good, even better once I've worked it up. So now let's pull that out. I could already tell that it was catching. See, this one did here. Okay. So be careful of that. Just go a little slower. Then once I started working with this into an actual project using smaller, tighter stitches, even something basic like single crochet, I pulled them out to redo a little bit. I found it really did, the yarn stuck, hung up on itself, which is really just the nature of this type of yarn. So going into it, you have to know that, be a little extra careful, that's all. And I just want to give a quick little shout out and thanks to you, Cheryl, for commenting, letting me know that you made a blanket in this yarn and how much you liked it. And it was because of that inspired me to take another look at it, and I'm so happy I did. Alrighty, my friends, that wraps up another yarn review for this time around. I certainly hope it was helpful and that you enjoyed it. And also, if you would, please remember to subscribe, comment, like, share if you haven't already. I always appreciate it. And until next time, take good care, and I will see you soon.